We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Team Terence Crawford, they speak out. And they do not want to fight Jaron Boots Ennis. They have, quote, no interest in that fight. This is what I will talk about right now in this video. We unpack, coming to you live. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Bomac is in Vegas. He has a fighter who will be on the Teofimo Lopez and Jermaine Ortiz fight card. And that's Keyshawn Davis, really kind of stepping up for where he's at in his career, fighting against Jose Pedraza, a guy that Gervonta Davis fought many years ago. But what I want to talk about, since he represents Team Crawford as well, is what he said about no interest in fighting Jaron Boots Ennis. So I'm going to start off with the quotes, and then let's get unpacked. Bomac says, everybody that believes in hardcore boxing fans, they know Crawford can beat Canelo, just like they knew Crawford was going to beat Spence. It's real simple. You just got to know boxing in order to say that. So right now you see he's still campaigning for a Canelo fight for his fighter, Terence Crawford. Regarding Errol Spence, he was asked about the Errol Spence fight. What's good with that? Is it absolutely not? He says, quote, I don't know. They still got to work things out and see where to go from there. So he wouldn't really reveal if it's officially no longer happening. Many people believe that there are complications in making that fight and that won't be next. Now, regarding Jaron Boots Ennis, who is available, who doesn't have cataract surgery like Errol Spence, he says, no, Jaron Ennis doesn't bring nothing to the table. He got our leftovers, meaning the old IBF belt, right? After Terence Crawford famously beat Errol Spence. Why would Bud want to go backwards? Bud is looking for bigger and better fights so he can etch his name in concrete forever. I don't know. I don't really look at none of the welterweights since we cleared out the division. I'm done. And that was when the media scrum reporters asked if they thought Boots Ennis is the second best person at the welterweight, 147 pounds. Listen, I said it before and I said it, I'll say it again. Boxing is getting soft, and I'm blaming you. Yes, you at home, the fans. I'm blaming all y'all. All y'all. The first body was found in Africa, so that means we all from Africa. All y'all. What movie is that from? I ain't from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia. African boot. What movie is that from? So the reason I am blaming you, the fans, let's get unpacked, is because boxing fans, they don't stand for nothing. At least a lot of them. I'm not going to say everybody, because boxing definitely has some solid individuals that I've met. But we're entering new times where it's getting harder and harder to find those. So what do I mean? Me, your boy Ego, I'm a real man. So I stand on what I say. I don't play around. I don't misconstrue things. I speak clearly when I'm giving you my opinion on the channel. And that's the reality of it. I can't say the same for a lot of people in boxing. So what do I mean? A lot of people, they say, I want the best versus the best, right? And then they watch several other fighters continually not fight the best in their division, and depending on if they like the fighter or not, they don't have a problem with that, you know? So like Gervonta Davis seems to be the most talked about, we'll say. People scrutinizing his resume like, oh, when's Tank gonna fight someone? Tank need to fight this, Tank that, right? But then they're okay with other people who want to fight Tank fighting against people Tank already knocked out and or beat, like Pitbull Cruz or Rolly or Ryan Garcia. Tank already beat all of them. So why is Tank's resume not bolstered by these names, but then you want to see other fighters fight those same names? It makes absolutely no sense. So a lot of people, they act like they are sticklers for certain rules, but they're not. And we're seeing that with Terence Crawford. You know, a lot of people saying the best versus the best, this and that. And you know Jaron Boots Ennis is nice. You know he's nice. So my thing is this. I can understand if Errol Spence fight is happening. Makes all the sense in the world. And this is what the Bud Buddies said. They said, oh, stop bringing up Jaron Ennis because Terence Crawford is contractually obligated to fight Errol Spence Jr., right? So that fight cannot happen per that contract. This is what the Bud Buddies told Your Highness Boxing Ego. They said he could not fight him, Boots Ennis, because he was obligated per contract, and that's why. It has nothing to do with nothing else. But then here and now, reports from people, insiders in boxing, they're saying that Errol Spence, there's a variety of reasons. Dan Rayfield, he's one of the people. They're saying there's a variety of reasons that this fight with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, part 2, a rematch, may not happen next, right? They have some issues. So it's casted doubt on that particular fight, right? Yet and still, the same people who just told Boxing Ego, oh man, it's because the Errol Spence fight, you know he can't fight. You know Terence Crawford can't fight Boots. It's because of Errol Spence. And I was okay with that. I had no problem with that. But if we're talking a multiverse world where the Errol Spence fight cannot happen next because Errol's coming off of surgery or injury or complications, then that frees up not only Errol Spence to go in a different direction, but it would free up Terence Crawford. So if that was your real talking point, then how come everybody who wasn't agreeing with me before, they're not screaming at their top of their lungs for Terence Crawford and Jaron Boots Ennis? I need to know this. Again, they say I talk a little fast. If you listen real fast, I ain't got to slow down for you to catch up. If your whole talking point was, why should Terence Crawford even mention Boots because he's obligated contractually to fight Errol, now that we're hearing the Errol fight is in jeopardy or it's in doubt, then why would Boots not be considered? And the reason I'm saying he's not being considered is because I just read quotes from Team Crawford. They said, why would we go backwards? Why would we look at Boots? We're looking for bigger and better things, right? And again, Canelo Alvarez most likely is not going to fight you in May. So you mean to tell me Terence Crawford, who only fought one time last year, he wants to just sit around, wait for Canelo to fight likely, let's say Jermall Charlo or Munguia? I think it's going to be Maul Charlo because he's already with PBC. Errol Spence may not be available, so you don't have to necessarily satisfy that contractual obligation by fighting Errol Spence. Tim Tszyu, let's talk about Tszyu from Down Under, right? Tim Tszyu is fighting Keith Thurman as Amazon Prime's first fight card with PBC March 30th, so late March. So even, let's say, even if you wanted the winner of that particular fight, if they have a big fight and push each other, because I think that's a good fight. A lot of people are sleeping on Keith Thurman, and I've seen a lot of Thurman disrespect. Listen, I like Tim Tszyu, for the record. I've already been on record in saying that. You ain't never heard me say nothing really negative about Tim Tszyu. I respect his father, and I respect what he's doing. He's moving like a G in boxing. No problem whatsoever. But I am seeing a lot of Thurman slander and disrespect that's unwarranted, in my opinion. And I think he can make for a tough fight, and he might even be able to beat Tim Tszyu, because we don't know everything about Tim Tszyu. We've seen Tim Tszyu versus certain styles, and he looks like he's climbing up the charts. But Keith Thurman has top billing. This is probably the second fight for Tim Tszyu, and Keith Thurman only has one loss to Manny Pacquiao, a Hall of Famer, and he has a very unique style that I don't think Tim Tszyu is really experienced as a pro. So that's a great fight. So the point I'm making with that is this. Tim Tszyu, Keith Thurman, great fight. Really kind of a pick'em fight. 50-50, 60-40, but it shouldn't be the disrespect that I'm seeing, where some people are like 90-10 Tim Tszyu. I don't see it as that type of fight. I think, like, let's say Tim Tszyu knocks out Keith Thurman. Very possible, right? Keith Thurman's going to have moments and rounds. I really doubt that Tim Tszyu just going to come out and bash Keith face in, and there's no challenging moments. I mean, he even had challenging moments with Terrell Goucher, right? So that's just my opinion on it. Whatever. But the point I'm making is that's March 30th. So that's basically April that they're fighting. The very, like, one of the last 2 days of March, right? My birthday month. Shout out to the Aries. We run the world. So the reality is they're going to need rest. What if there's a cut? You know, what if someone gets injured or, you know, hurts their hand, fractures their hand, and then gets a victory? In boxing, you never know. So it's kind of weird for Terence Crawford when people have already criticized his resume in its totality. Listen, you beat Errol Spence convincingly, but that's one name out of your whole resume that holds that type of weight. So everyone gives props to Terence Crawford for what he did his last fight, but let's be very clear. Errol Spence did the heavy lifting in the division, and he made it very accessible and very easy for you to, on that given night, on said night, defeat him, and then now you achieved the undisputed. But imagine if you, like, let's say Terence Crawford always says, like, oh, I wanted to fight Errol years ago, but the PBC fighters didn't want to fight me. I mean, if you would have fought him years ago, then that means he wouldn't have had time to nab all the belts that he could on his side, aka clean up his side of the street. Because if you look at it, his last fight before he fought Crawford was a unification with Yordenis Ugas. So Crawford, he can have his revisionist history, but it doesn't make sense. You know, oh, I wanted to fight these guys years ago. If you would have fought him years ago, then he wouldn't have been a unified champion with that many belts and made it all so convenient for you to become 2x undisputed, the first male to do that. Now, I'm not saying that's an easy task, because I don't think it's an easy task, because a bunch of people would have done it already. But it does, you got to understand, and I want to make this clear because I'm unpacked right now. All undisputed paths are not equal. Point blank, period. You can't tell me Naoya Inoue, who also did it after Crawford, him fighting Paul Butler, Crawford fighting Indongo. This is not the same as, you know, Usyk and Tyson Fury fighting each other at heavyweight. If Usyk beats big old Tyson Fury, who beat Klitschko, who beat Wilder twice, right? Usyk already beat Joshua and Daniel Dubois. Usyk is a G, you know what I mean? And we're not going to compare that undisputed run, what Usyk's had to go through at heavyweight to try to become, you know, undisputed in another division, to Terence Crawford's run. It's not the same. You know, you guys can say whatever and cry. I know that's what y'all like to do. Y'all like to be all in my comment section crying and talking about someone don't know boxing, but I'm telling you boxing. I'm telling you history, right? Usyk has had a tough run. Cruiserweight, he was in the tournament, so he had to fight every available person. He fought Tony Bellew, who had just beaten David Haye twice by stoppage, et cetera, et cetera. And then he moved up and he's fighting naturally like guys who everyone that Usyk has fought is bigger than him and likely could be even stronger than him. At least Joshua, you got 24 rounds with Joshua, Daniel Dubois. These dudes are definitely bigger and stronger than you. I mean, look at Joshua next to him, right? So I give props to Crawford for the totality of his career and especially the Errol Spence victory. But a lot of those fights with Top Rank were Top Rank specials. That's just really what it is. So it's funny to see Crawford almost seemingly wanting to hold out for only big fights like Tim Tszyu or a Canelo fight, but your resume is not. This is what people have complained about. So why not squeeze a Jaron Boots Ennis in there? What's so bad about that? But you ask Crawford fans, and they say it like, "Oh, Crawford would demolish Boots." Boots is calling for that. So just show me. That's it. Yeah, oh, you guys said this about Errol Spence. Okay, now people are saying it about Boots. That's the nature of the beast. If you're Tom Brady, who cares? He got 4 rings, 5 rings. People want to see if you can get a 6. So if anything, it's a compliment to Terence Crawford. But somehow, some way, the Bud buddies, they get mad and they get angry. Oh, you just want to see Bud lose. Oh, you hate Bud. If anything, people are giving him a compliment that we want to see you challenged and we want to see you with top guys that we believe could challenge you. And there's no obstacle. There's no sides of the street that are preventing Boots. There's a backstory. Errol Spence had Boots as the mandatory. And then when Crawford beat him, Boots was the mandatory. And then they stripped Terence Crawford because he was going to fight Errol Spence in a rematch. So now if that is no longer the case, I really don't see a problem with a Boots fight and Crawford. And I don't want to hear a bunch of Crawford fans saying, oh, what is Boots doesn't matter and was he done and all that type of stuff. Because if that's the route we're going to go, what did David Avocado do? Like, people, what you're not going to do to Boxing Ego is tell me I don't know my sport and I ain't been paying attention. Y'all know I be one taking my like Hove. Give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'll be one taking this Unpacked, we one taking it. And you're not going to play me. And the reality is, when it comes to Terence Crawford, he fought David Avanesian, no problem. Had no qualms, no issues. He wasn't like, oh, I got bigger fish to fry. Nothing. You fought the man. And I'm not bringing up a fight from 5-7 years ago. This is somebody you fought in December before you fought Errol Spence. And then last year you only fought one time, and now it looks like you're trying to cash out on a Canelo fight and you trying to undermine a guy like Boots, like, oh, was he done and all that. And the sad part about it, and let's just be real, the sad part is the man you see on the screen, he's exactly where you said you were when you couldn't get the fights. And then you're treating him the exact same way that you said PBC fighters and Al Heyman treated you. What do I mean? What I mean is Bud constantly complains about being the odd man out, the black sheep when he was with Top Rank. Mad that PBC would not send their top hitters to Top Rank, when they had belts and stuff like that. Not later when he fought Sean Porter, but when it mattered, they weren't sending their top people to feed them to Bud on another network. So he felt stifled out of an opportunity to prove himself, right? This is what Bud says. This is his account. So what's the difference to what you're doing to Boots Ennis? He didn't want to become a champion in such a way. He didn't want to be an email champion. He been calling out Errol Spence. Errol Spence lost to you, and now he's calling you out. So he wanted to fight for the belt, but you and your team are pretty much fronting him off like he's chopped liver, like it don't make sense to fight him. And I don't believe that's the case, especially if Errol Spence is out the picture. Tim Tszú's locked up, and Canelo is likely locked up in May. I would literally bet money that Canelo does not fight. I don't even know if Canelo will fight Crawford at all. Let alone, I will bet money, if anybody want to, what y'all want to do, $2,000, $10,000, that Canelo does not fight Crawford in May. So with that being said, Crawford can fight a Boots Ennis and then still get a Tim Tszú or a Canelo or Tszú Thurman winner in the back half of the year and fight 2 times a year instead of sitting on the sidelines like he did for several years in his career. Like at the end, when he was with Top Rank, he fought 1 time a year. The year he fought Sean Porter, that was his only fight, and it was in like October, November. The year he fought Kell Brook, that was his only fight. The year he fought David Avocado, that was his only fight for those years. So that's like 3 years in a row. And then the year you fought Errol Spence, you fought 1 time. So basically, we have Crawford, who's fighting 1 time a year. Tank Davis is the face of boxing. He fought Hector Luis Garcia. A couple months later, he fighting Ryan Garcia in the blockbuster fight. Then you got Crawford, and he fighting 1 time a year for the last several years. And you say you're a machine and, you know, he's always in shape. Why not fight a Boots? You can get that out the way, get the IBF belt back, then move up and fight Canelo. Move up and fight whoever, Tim Tszú Thurman winner. And I guarantee you this, that if you beat Boots, me as a real boxing fan, if you beat Boots, that would only jumpstart the need to see Canelo. Because right now, I don't need to see someone move up 3 weight classes to fight Canelo. I watched somebody, I know, albeit a different fighter in Jermell Charlo, I watched somebody fight 2 weight classes under and move up, and they couldn't do nothing with Canelo. So I don't really feel the need to even see that fight, right? That's just my honest opinion. I'm being real with you. So if you just beat Errol Spence, people have their own perception. Oh, he was weight drained. Oh, he wasn't the same, cataracts, whatever. There's nothing going on with Boots Ennis. He's a talented young fighter. Do what Floyd did to Canelo when he was 23. Knock the young fighter off of the train track and derail their whole plans. Get that, snatch that IBF, and it would only make you moving up to fight Tszú Thurman winner or Canelo bigger. But instead, it sounds like Crawford's team rather just sit and do what they've been doing, which is fight 1 time a year and sit on the sideline. And I don't really understand that, especially when you have 4 years of fighting 1 time a year. So at this rate, you know, it looks like Crawford kind of is trying to cash out. Like he just want one, like Carlito's way. He want one last big score and then he out the game. So to me, I kind of look at it like that's what it is with Crawford. I think Crawford wants to retire and he feels he's done enough. And he's like, they already casted my hand as a Hall of Famer, you know, the Hall of Fame. So I want to get one last big fight, win, lose, or draw, and then right off into the sunset. I don't want to get my hands dirty with the Boots. But again, for me, shout out to Philly. For me, I think the thing that rubs me the wrong way with that is the fact that Boots Ennis is literally in the same position you said you were, and now you have the power, because you just beat Errol Spence, you have the power to change that and give the young scrapper an opportunity, but then you saying no, and your team saying like, no, that's going backwards. Okay, so all the people, when it was with PBC, and they didn't want to give you a chance because you was with Top Rank, maybe they felt you was a backwards look. Like, man, it's cracking over here on PBC, on Dead Homies. It's cracking over here. Why should we be worried about a Top Rank dude? You know what I mean? So that's what I want to know from y'all in the comments, because I know the haters, they're going to disagree. But if you disagree, let me know what you disagree with, because I need some solid comments justifying that angle of how you justify Crawford complaining that he couldn't get the looks, and then now Boots ain't getting the looks from big names, and you're okay with Crawford being the person who prevents him from showing what he's worth. He got the IBF. People were mad at it. This is a great way to solve it. Fight Boots. Winner will be undisputed and the rightful owner of that IBF, similar to what Ugas did when he fought Pacquiao, and they both had versions of a belt. You know what I mean? When Pacquiao fought Thurman, they had versions of a belt. Settle that little score, and then you could move on, one more fight or whatever, and fight Canelo. Fight Tim Tszyu Thurman winner. Makes sense to me. We unpacked.